This video was brought to you by my parents who bought me the laptop I used to record and edit this. Thank you. In all honesty, I expected Knives Out to be an average murder mystery with a few good scenes that I would not be able to solve in the end. What I got was a movie that grabbed my attention and wouldn't let go until I got a notification and stopped to watch a video on YouTube. But that's beside the point. The real question is, how did Knives Out accomplish this? Get that out of here. I'm not discussing The Last Jedi or linking it to this video. Knives Out holds our attention by a surprisingly simple trick. A trick so simple I expect something to rip it off in the next 3 years. It pretended to not be a mystery for a majority of its runtime. It instead turned into a suspenseful thriller where the very act of treating it like a mystery to be solved increased the suspense. By telling us that Martha is, and I'm putting this in air quotes, responsible early on, it lures us out of our mystery solving mood into one following the story as a suspenseful drama. This serves two purposes. First of all, it's very good suspense. It spends the first act establishing that Martha is a good person. While many of the people interviewed lied to the detective, we see that Martha cannot lie and is literally physically driven to sickness by doing so. This is a kind of transparent way to establish her as essentially saintly compared to everyone else, but it still works, even if it is confusing at first. We also see in the first act and beyond that while many of the people are just very greedy for Mr. Thornby's money, Martha is legitimately his friend and his confidant. And though I'm not saying that the family didn't actually care about the old man, for most, some of them at least. Honestly, it's why I found the whole twist with the will to make so much sense given how he'd apparently spent his birthday cutting off people leeching off his money. Or his daughter's money. Really, man? You live in fear, but you're still confident enough to cheat on her? You deserve everything that's coming to you. Now that Martha is firmly established to be best girl, we see the tragedy. She accidentally killed her boss when she gave him the wrong medication. And now she has to keep all of that from being discovered. Not for any money it could make her, but to protect her family from deportation. Specifically, her mother. And Mr. Thrombey gets it. So he actually kills himself. And on a side note, I don't think she would have been convicted of murder because Thrombey does actually kill himself. Reckless endangerment to be sure, but not murder. Though being his sole inheritor may muddy the waters in an actual trial. If there are any lawyers watching this, can you please tell me? Afterwards, the whole thing just becomes a game of cat and mouse and Martha's attempts to keep away from discovery. And can I just say I love how Martha is portrayed to be quite intelligent? Between almost losing the police in
Dumbest car chase of all time.
and the magnet, she's shown to be very resourceful, even when she's not always successful. I suppose this could tie back to her knowing the correct medicine regardless of the label, but I could just be stretching it. The point is, Martha is relatable, fun, and intelligent. Back to the plot. With Martha established to be a likable character, the story now has to play with her and her emotions as well as her security as a non-suspect in order to heighten the tension. The will, for instance, makes Martha suspect number one and gets the family suddenly and absolutely interested in the investigation they'd all been happy to dismiss. And she's present to watch the holes get poked in her story, from the sound of the board game falling down to the dogs retrieving the broken board for the detective. I could go on, but you've seen the movie. If you haven't, you really should, it's really good. While Knives Out holds your attention by turning into a thriller on the surface while hiding the fact it's still a mystery, it can pull off a bunch of clue drops that you're too distracted to notice. These clues seem obvious when you look at it in hindsight, though some seem obvious the moment you see them. But the audience is distracted from really thinking about said clues because, as far as we're concerned, there is no mystery. Personally, I had a feeling the whole murder reveal in the first act was a red herring because of how the antidote was missing in that scene and how the medical bag on a whole just went missing before the detective arrived. So I suspected that there was another twist I hadn't seen coming. But I can't pretend I wasn't suckered in. Though this scene with the dogs barking was a little obvious.
Sometime later that night, but possibly near 3 a.m., Meg woke up because the dogs were barking outside.
My mind just could not piece together what its relevance was, considering we knew for a fact that Harlan had slit his own throat hours earlier, and I just kind of forgot in the suspense of the rest of the movie. In all honesty, without the suspense, which I don't think this would actually be a very good mystery. Full disclosure, while the will was being read, I did suspect that Ransom was there to capitalize on something he knew that no one else did. In fact, as soon as they finished reading the will, I knew he'd be the one in the family who'd capitalize on Martha gaining the inheritance. I just forgot my earlier suspicion that he was capitalizing on something he already knew was going to happen. Maybe I'm just forgetful. And the movie isn't perfect. Take the kid that everyone says is an N-word, the other N-word. Even though we're never presented with any actual evidence to say that he isn't, say, the nicest person in the entire family who is still alive by the end of the movie. Where was I going? Oh yeah. The kid kind of goes nowhere as a character beyond overhearing part of a conversation anyone could have heard and becoming a meme. Even his opposite, the, and I'm using the movie's own words, liberal snowflake, has some significance in how the cost of her studies affect the plots. You could replace him with Dora the Explorer with a cell phone to Google things when needed and nothing would change. Which isn't the worst criticism a movie can get, but I do find it odd because, as far as I can tell, every other character has at least one character trait that affects the plot, or comedy in the case of one of the detectives. But he's just sitting in the corner looking at his phone. I don't get him. All in all, Knives Out is a really good mystery that takes advantage of its genres to amplify the best qualities in both of them. Please like, subscribe, and tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Link to my Twitter in the description.